Did you know in Battlefront 3 players could seamlessly fly from the ground battle into capital ships, combining the starfighter combat of the original with the sequel space battle system but on a much larger scale. You could fly between the trenches of the Death Star, blow up enemy capital ships, and evacuate via escape pods all in the same match. The capital ship interiors are also a lot bigger than before, having different sectors like the bridge, which looks so cool, and an artillery room as shown in episode 3. Although the game was cancelled prematurely, most of its features were brought to life in Elite Squadrons for the PSP. Space to ground were now separated via cutscene, but players on the planet's surface could still interact with the capital ships in real time and vice versa, like calling in orbital strikes or manually doing it yourself from space. The space battles themselves are just like in Battlefront 2, but with the added feature of the ship's core, which is only destroyable inside the cruiser and can't be repaired just like the life support system. While Battlefront 2 gives you more tickets for doing so, in Elite Squadrons it'll cause the ship to fail internally and will eventually blow up. You can evacuate via the main hangar, escape pods, which is now just a cutscene as well, but still one of my favorite methods, since you get to watch what happens from the ground, or just stay inside and wait for the bang. Kinda amazing this is even possible with the system's hardware limitations, since the PSP port of Battlefront 2 doesn't even let you destroy any internal systems. Elite Squadrons also used maps heavily inspired from Battlefront 3, at times being the exact same, and unlike Battlefront 2, which focused on planets only seen in the original 6 films, Battlefront 3 uses planets like Dantooine, which is only ever fleshed out in the expanded universe, and even introduced a completely original planet named Vune, which is where Vader's castle was located. Speaking of which, Elite Squadrons also shares the same story mode, which gets you to play as the Jedi clone X2 under his older clone brother X1's command during the Clone Wars, until reaching Cato Neimoidia, where Order 66 was received and fulfilled, but eventually causing X2 to side with the rebels, forced to fight his brother in the Galactic Civil War. The story delves more into the EU elements of Star Wars, having characters like Ram Koda from The Force Unleashed, the Phase 3 Dark Trooper, which I explain more about in another video, and even made X1 the main Sith Lord of the Empire after the events of Episode 6, having him create an army of modified stormtroopers and Wookiee clones. In Elite Squadrons, the final mission is on Mustafar, where X2 destroys the cloning facility and has his final duel with X1. But Battlefront 3 was gonna have an extra mission where X1 captures Luke Skywalker and hides on Kashyyyk, which is where X2 defeats him originally. They were even planning to continue similar concepts in Battlefront 4's story as seen with the What If scenario character images released online, showing off light side Vader, dark side Luke Skywalker, and much more. So clearly Elite Squadrons was gonna be the portable version of Battlefront 3, even having the logo in the game's unused files. But not everything was ported over. Battlefront 3 followed its previous entries by using the same 6 classes, with new appearances for each class. Green was again assigned to the Jet Trooper, which resembles the markings of the clones seen in the promotional material of Battlefront 2, while the Commander unit being exclusively melee focused as a counter to Jedi. Although Elite Squadrons shares mostly the same classes, it only changes your loadout, not appearance. Instead, it returns Renegade Squadrons' customization feature, allowing you to choose one of 3 body types and 3 different heads respectively, as well as any primary and secondary color, which extends to our teammates and vehicles as well. They even made some exclusive customization items for the game, like the Mech Trooper, which is a hybrid of the Republic Commando and maybe Wrecker from the Bad Batch. Although this is pretty cool, it makes different units like the droids all feel the same since they don't use any unique design traits, unlike in Battlefront 2. And the loadout system doesn't allow us to play as some of the special units like Droidekas, the Phase 3 Dark Troopers, the Imperial Guards, or the majority of the Hunt Mode exclusive factions, which were shown to be playable in Battlefront 3. Instead, players can access their special abilities via the custom class perks and weapon selection for their individual soldier. Plus, some heroes from Battlefront 3 are absent in Elite Squadrons despite being playable in Battlefront 2, replacing them with story mode exclusive heroes like Fallon Gray, X1 and 2's biological father, as well as cut content from previous Battlefronts like Ben Kenobi and the droid bounty hunter IG-88, with also Battlefront 2's DLC characters Asajj Ventress and Kit Fisto. Battlefront 3 also completely overhauled the hero gameplay, having different attacks depending on the direction of the thumbsticks, and a heavy attack that could stagger blocking opponents or clash if they both strike at the same time, some of which made it into elite squadrons, but like other features were simplified. The core gameplay has a great foundation, implementing a new focus to melee combat that wasn't there in Battlefront 1 or 2, and having some hero specific vehicles, which is pretty cool. But Elite Squadron is missing some simple gameplay options, like not letting you crouch, go prone, which was to make a return in Battlefront 3, or even freely look around. Instead, restricting players to only horizontal camera control when not aiming down sights, relying too heavily on its lock-on feature to aim the camera at enemies, making it difficult to control on corners or when jumping. And although you can roll in any direction, most animations are very slow. It doesn't help that the enemies can get extra health, making the firefights unnecessarily long. Elite Squadrons also cut out a lot of starfighters from previous titles that were intended to be in the third installment, only allowing 2 different ships per faction in instant action, even though the campaign clearly shows off more being used. This even happens for skins. Phase 1 clone troopers aren't playable but can be seen in the Order 66 mission, which is strange because Obi-Wan also wears his episode 2 skin despite not having a Geonosis map in the game, which might be because Battlefront 3 intended to have 4 DLC packs available at launch. Pack 1 being Geonosis, including the Geonosian hunt mode with a new ship, Pack 2 having the Naboo planes from episode 1 with the Gungans, and the other 2 packs were never finalized. But by far the worst feature that was never implemented was from Galactic Conquest. Battlefront 3 was going to simplify the game mode by allowing the player to attack any planet at any time, instead of moving through the galaxy like in Battlefront 2 to avoid repetitive scenarios. Most of the bonuses were the same, but each planet was also going to have a specific bonus for being captured. If the Empire captures Endor, they can build the Death Star and use it to destroy other planets just like in Battlefront 1. Sadly, Elite Squadrons doesn't have this feature, using a much more simplified version of the game mode from Renegade Squadrons. In fact, planetary bonuses weren't even in Battlefront 2, just one of many cool features from the original that were cut out of the sequel. Find out more in this video here.